Great. All right. I'm excited to get into day 5. It's a really beautiful roundup day of everything that's come up for us through the week. Oh, am I very quiet? Do you hear me well enough? Sam, how do you hear me? Is it quiet? Could you let me know?
You are slightly quiet. If I put my
Oh,
volumes up full to hear you.
I'm mixing up the Sams. I thought that was you, but Samantha, you can hear me fine. Sam, it's quiet for you, is it? You could just unmute and let us know.
Hmm.
Is it very quiet?
Yeah, I'm trying to work out if I can just ramp up the volume, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. You
Interesting.
started out absolutely fine, and then it suddenly went quiet. But I'll keep trying my end. Sorry
Okay.
to interrupt.
No problem at all. No problem. Thanks for letting me know. And yeah, let me know if I think it's my usual setup. It should be okay. But yeah, let us know if the problem persists. But okay, great. Let's just jump into it. Yeah, day 5. I'll bring up the slides and I had all kinds of plans for today that were gonna involve some of the people that aren't here as well, but that's okay. We'll just roll through it in a very easygoing way, as always. Check I'm doing the right thing here. Oh yes, great. And I also wanted to just live stream to the group because there was a request so this just goes to our very small private group, and it will only be there for the weekend. So it's just for those that couldn't make today, and really wanted to hear the content. Let me just check that's happening. Oh, I can't do it anyway. Okay, no worries. All right, let's do it. Here are the slides. Great. Sorry, one sec. I'm just going to check one more thing. Okay. Great. Yeah, day 5. Day 5 is handing over the reins. Day 3 was retire. Sam, I'm not sure how much you were able to follow just in the group, but yeah, that was a really stunning day on just looking at what parenting behaviors we want to drop, where we feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot or showing up in a way that doesn't serve self-defeating parenting. And so, today's really like a jump off day. If this is the last I see of you, apart from the bow tie call, which I'll mention again later, I'd really want to see you all for a half-hour call just to have some feedback and the review process and to consider next steps for you and your teens. Yeah, then this is the kind of a jumping off point for just like how we actually do that. How do we actually how do we action these things that we might want to action, letting them take the lead, overcoming any of the what ifs that were mentioned. What if they, again, that comes up a bit later on in the presentation as well, but there can be a lot of that fear of what's going to go wrong if we do trust. Of course, that's part of what holds us back. And yeah, trusting in their good decision making, trusting in their good judgment, trusting in their capacity to step into a responsible role without needing us to protect them, to look after them, to decide for them, to make sure they get it right, or any of those kinds of things. And yeah, really just keeping the communication channels open is going to be a big part of the teach at the end of the presentation today. And even, also just dealing with the big topics, drugs, sex, abuse of whatever kind, whether bullying or just other form, we want them to be open with us about all of that as well. And so part of trust is also building those communication bridges so that we can be someone that they're happy to share everything with. Just this week, I had a mum that, that I'm working with. In fact, we're going to see her video later on, Jane. And yeah, deep, great concerns about the topic of drugs, especially how to speak with her son about drugs. So yeah, that's the direction for today. And yeah, I wanted to just in a way just congratulate all of you, and there's a few not here from this snapshot and a few not in the snapshot anyway. Fatima, you've been with us all week and off camera, and that's completely great. That's also the same with the teens. Some of the teens are also off camera when I'm working with them, and that's just for whatever reason. For some of them, that's just their comfortable space. For some of them, they don't have a webcam, and there can be multiple reasons for that. But the connection is no less for not being on camera. It's each to their own in some ways. So yeah, just wanted to praise all of you, inspirational parents. It's been really incredible to see what's been going on in the chat, and I've spent quite a bit of time yesterday just looking at the chat, reviewing what came up in the first day and the third day. And so I wanted to go into some of that now. So yeah, this is just a review of some of your awesome comments. I didn't want to miss some of these comments, and I would love to invite your shares or comments, if you're here, to be able to do that. Actually thinking about it, we might not be able to do that, but let's see. I'm open to any expansion or shares of these great comments. So Kirsty, who let us know right at the beginning of the week she wasn't going to be here today because of work, I think, had this holding her back. She's still my little girl, she needs me to direct her. What if it all goes wrong for her? I mean, which parent has not experienced this as our kids become teenagers? So hard to to let them go in this way, or to feel like they're going to be safe without us, and to give up that role of being really mollycoddling in some ways. The downside of it is then like denying them some of the biggest lessons that they could be learning, because we're still kind of running the show for them, protecting them, and eventually just getting in the way. So Kirsty also mentioned some amazing things. I can't remember which day it was, but just the power of being shoulder to shoulder with teens, how much that opens up, driving. I've got a Montessori friend who says that when he's planting with the kids, and they're all, they have a kitchen garden and they're growing stuff, and when he's shoulder to shoulder with the teens and they're just planting, that's when they all open up to him. Well, that's when the real conversations flow, because they're busy doing something, and they can really speak about all of life. They're on their hands and knees all day planting or whatever it is. And he said that's always it's just so interesting that eyeball to eyeball, it's a lot less easy for most teens, especially the boys. He was actually specifically talking about boys, but it can be the same for all genders and sexes. So Kirsty also mentioned impatience. I suppose with kind of her child stepping into leadership and taking responsibility, having very high expectations. And saying, I keep coming back to where I don't trust her to be responsible enough, or don't give her the space to learn to be responsible. My pressure holds her back. So these are just such powerful shares that I think we can all resonate with and take from. Sarah, who's just mentioned how in some ways ill health had forced her to retire. She's it's really interesting this to me that circumstance in her life actually has greatly empowered her son, who I met yesterday. So Ben joined the team call, which was awesome. He was one of the 2 students who came to the team call, and I can see that empowerment in Ben. Isn't it funny that in a way, when we're taken out of the active role of parenting, there can be such benefits there. So, for Western parents, I don't really want to distinguish East and West, but, for those of us that have the luxury of time and many of our needs met, we can really overfuss and overfocus on our children to their detriment. So this is just a fascinating insight from you, Sarah. Thanks for sharing that with us. That it's made in a weird way, taking her out. It's coincided right at the time Ben's now 14, so maybe it was when he was about 12, and he's got a lot of personal self-leadership and empowerment from that. Could have been a very I'm sure was a challenging circumstance, but had its benefits and has its benefits still now. And I loved this from Elle, being conflicted between being the boss and motivator. And I've got to move all, and the friend who enables the fun stuff. I mean, in some ways, this sounds like a very active form of parenting to me. Like, my question would be around taking ourselves out of needing to be either of those things. I don't think it's our responsibility forever, or even when they're much younger, to be the boss and be the motivator, or to be the entertainer. Of course, we're all in those roles, so I totally get this. But my invitation would be also to just see, you know, what we want for them is self-motivation, intrinsic motivation, self-leadership, no boss required, and also the capacity to roll with the boring times, to take responsibility for how they feel if they're not fully entertained each day. I see many parents in this role of feeling like they've got to lay on everything all the time, make everything well, fine for their children. I must say, especially the mums, again, I feel like I don't want to get myself in deep water here with gender stereotyping, but it's due to the profound bond between mother and child, cannot be matched by a father-child bond. It's just it is wholly different. So, you know, take that in the best possible way. It's just pure devotion from mums to try and make everything right, to serve. And so that the interest this week for me is just in identifying what does serve and what doesn't, what does really empower our children long term and what doesn't. So that's all I'm referring to. But yeah, and swinging between overly controlling and not controlling enough, that is the line. Okay, so in the parent program, we're looking at that all the time for each parent different. But in a group setting, it's so good because everyone gets to discover like where they're at with this particular paradigm or this element of control. Where's the line, you know? And it's different. We had this in the live I gave on Thursday in the bigger group, the Young 5 Parent Community Group. Someone asking about neurodiversity, you know, so it's completely different for every parent and child to find this line between overly controlling and not controlling enough. Sarah Jane, yeah, this was this is just where the rubber hits the road with trust in some ways. A homeschooling mom, and him just saying, yeah, why would I do anything I don't want to do? And you know, and yet he's very gentle and cheerful, and you know, could be judged as lazy. You know, I trust, this is where trust really is pushing the bounds for anyone. And you know, if you read John Holt or any of these commentators, you know, he really would push the extreme of like, we can literally just leave our children again to teach themselves whatever they need to learn. So you know, I really understood this quote, and I'm sure, Sarah Jane, that you will see it all kick in as he gets a bit older and also starts school. He's 14, starting at school. There'll be a lot of change there. So that was cool to read. Yeah, and Fatima, this thing of other people's expectations, I mean, it sounds like you're mentioning, you're talking about it just sounds to me like non-relatives, but relatives can be a huge impact as well on our parenting and on our ability to trust our teens. Our parents, their grandparents, our own family, our siblings, their uncles and aunts, you know, people who are in close with us, that also can be really challenging for us as parents to take this leap of faith into trust in the way that we want to, because others might not be doing it in the same way. And great also, Fatima, to hear your kind of fire to speak up for this in some ways, to protect him, to just speak up for how he is and let people know how he wants to be related to as well. You know, in some ways he is who he is. I met him last night and he's awesome. You know, I don't need him to be less shy or whatever it might be with me, you know. So people really sometimes do need to be told and invited to just let our children be as they are. You know, that is such a gift for all children, to just be allowed to be as they are. We don't all have to be confident in that sort of way, socially confident. Wow, your son, I mean, I'll get into it maybe later, but he's got incredible qualities. And so, you know, that's where I put all the emphasis, is on what I see in everyone. Basically everyone. I mean, I've yet to meet a teen who's open. You know, if someone's closed and they don't want to meet with me, fine. That's very difficult for me to see who they are and to feel kind of connected with them. But if they're open to relationship, like Ben and Mohammed were last night, it's just, I just see all of their glory and beauty and brilliance. So I certainly saw that for Mohammed last night. So that was cool. Great. And yeah, Jessica, you're going through a profound day today, and yeah, my heart's with you with your anniversary of your mum's passing. And yeah, I just thought this was really again part of the treadmill for all parents, Sometimes we're just doing too much for them. You know, we're still doing a lot of the roles that we need them to pick up, and only by stepping back will we manage to get them to step into those roles and help us out. And we, you know, part of today is part of the having those kind of conversations and just definitively retiring from day 3, and then really finding an easeful and empowering way to hand over some of these day-to-day roles, and just asking for help in some ways, you know, over a period of months and years, where they can really see, okay, I can step in and do this. Mum needs it. We're going to all operate much better. The family's going to be much healthier if I can do this. And teens, you know, they are crying out for responsibility and leadership in this way. You know, I have so many parents come to me and say, oh, their teens don't want to lift a finger around the house. I immediately feel so sorry for their teens, just being in that space of doing nothing, contributing nothing. And I know it's so hard for us because for many, many reasons, which I won't go into, it's so hard for us to get our teens to contribute in this country. Or in the West, I'm always tempted because I see such differences over in the East. I'm very well connected with India and have quite a bit of experience with traveling in that part of the world. And I know what they're like, and it's wholly different to how we are. So it is partly a Western and Eastern thing. But yeah, so I just really understood this. And today will really help you, I think, Jessica. So I'm so pleased you're on the call. All right, great. Let's have a quick reflection, or not quick reflection. We'll take about 5 minutes just to, consider what we've gained from participating so far in this training. This is a good time to kind of also look at any of your notes, just to reflect, take some time before the week's over and you're just gone into the weekend and it's all lost. Or not lost, it's all there, but you know, this is a time for consolidation. So I'm going to play a track and we're just going to consider, and I would love to hear any shares after this. Let me see if there's okay. So if there are any shares, please do in the chat. Oh, and let me open the chat. I haven't looked at it at all. Great, Jessica. Yes, let me just catch up with this. Oh, thanks, Fatima. All right, I'm going to catch up with the chat. Sorry, I had it closed. I'll play a track and we'll just review these things. What's shifted? What's really hit home? Let me see if there's any other way I want to frame that for you. No, that's perfect. What's shifted for you? What's really hit home? What do you want to take forward also from this week? And then we'll come back in about 5 minutes time and hear any shares and move on. Great. Just reading your comments then. No, that's perfect. That's great to read. And yeah, if no one's really drawn to share, we're a small group, so I'm really happy also that we're Jessica is resting today. So yeah, we can just leave it there. That's perfect. Beautiful to hear, Fatima, that you're happier than before being a teenager's mum. You've got a lot to celebrate, Fatima. I mean, one thing is just meeting other people's children. Like, you'll hear from one of the mums, actually, there's another little video of one of the mums I worked with, and just the benefits of what I get to do with other people's children, the light I get to shine on other people's children, and that helps them also see their own children in a whole new way. We all know that when our children go out to someone else's house, they're awesome. All of our friends or their friends say, wow, what a lovely boy or girl they are. And then they come back, and in our house, they can be horrific. So it's just really beautiful in the Young Fire program to be in the middle there, where I can, there's some sort of a feedback loop of just how brilliant I think the child is. And in the end, we all end up kind of in the same place there, with the ups and downs, with the challenges. So yeah, that's just a lovely aspect of it. But yeah, and you aim to raise him as a confident and happy teen. Yeah, sure. Yeah, those are big goals, confidence and happiness, but of course that's what we're all aiming for. But it's great to hear you so clear on that that's what you most want. And yeah, I understand the resistance, Sam. Yeah, and the timing's got to be right. So, in some ways, but we can talk about that also on the boat. I think I'm going to see you later on this afternoon, so we can chat that through. But yeah, timing's got to be right. They've got to be old enough. Also for me, when I meet a teen, they've got to be right for me. So it goes both ways. I'll meet the teen, and they'll be like, yeah, great, I'm in, or not, and I'll be the same. So it's got to be a fit. It's got to be the right time. And yeah, if these instructions or invitations all feel a bit early for you, then that's something we can definitely speak about on the call as well, because that I feel like a lot of these suggestions can be implemented way before the teenage years. I don't see, but each to their own. You'll know. I trust your discernment completely as a parent and a mom. Your child, and what you're up for, what sort of style you have, what's worked for you so far. So again, it's finding the line. But everything I'm saying is just for you to take what you will from, of course. It's not like a manual. There isn't one for parenting. So they're just suggestions. Some of them will land, and some of them will really be, I hope, gems for you, like real openings for you. And other things just won't be appropriate. You're not gonna. That's not your style. You're not open to that, or that's just not going to work for you and your child. So I completely respect that. But yeah, listening actively is great. You've taken that. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's roll on. How do I do that? There we go. Yeah, yesterday was brilliant meeting these two. Here's Ben and Mohammed. I hope it's fine to share their pictures. Yeah, just so coachable, super fun, open kids. We had a really fun time. In the end, I didn't run anything kind of formal by them. I thought we'd be maybe a bigger group of 3 or 4 teens, and so that I've got a presentation and some active coaching we could have done. But it was a very conversational, fun time together. And yeah, a few little breakthroughs I would say we had around technology usage, and also bullying at school. Actually, some quite heavy topics came up in some ways, so bullying and phone usage, and just reframing those and helping them just see for themselves what they want to do around those situations and what that really means. Reframing the story around both of those things. And another thing with technology, it's just so easy for me to come in and talk with teens about technology. It's part of the program. Of course it is for them. It's a massive topic. between a parent and a child, it's an ongoing struggle. But for me, I can just chat with them about it. What do you think? Like, is 3 hours a day too much? How does that feel for you? And especially with Ben, we really went into that. And he was the one that said to me, yeah, you know, sometimes I'm just scrolling and it's just so like pointless. I know I should be doing other things. I want to be doing other things. And I really challenged him on that. I was like, well, do you really want, like, is that just kind of what your mom tells you or what society tells you? Do you actually want to be doing other things? And like, no, I really should be. I was like, well, okay, what would you prefer to be doing other than scrolling? You know, this is the job of a coach, is to really push them to go like, okay, yeah, to speak out. I would prefer to be learning my lines for the play, he said, and socializing. He sees them as higher priorities than lying around scrolling on his phone. So as a coach, you get to come in the middle, and he's got nothing to prove to me. I make sure that they're not telling me what they think I need to hear or whatever, that we really get down to the truth. What do they want? What do they think? And from having that conversation, I know that will resonate with Ben from now on. He's spoken out his own wish to not be scrolling on his phone. I know that's a problem that his mum was concerned about coming into the training. So yeah, it was awesome last night. This is your invitation to book the Bowtie call. I'm not sure if there's anyone on the call who hasn't yet done this, but I would love to see all of you for half an hour, just to review the course as much as anything else, hear more from you. It is great to have that one-to-one contact to kind of know you all better, and to just consider really openly with you. It's not a sales call, just to consider really openly with you your next steps for you and your team. So yeah, please do book that in. There's the QR. Sam, if you could put the link in the chat for anyone, so you can either use the QR or you can book the call using the link Sam will paste in. That just takes you straight to my calendar. It's really easy to book in half an hour, and that would be great next week. Ideally, would be awesome. Great. Okay, I wanted to introduce you to Jane. Jane, yeah, just really did have this thing of like, can we really trust him? You know, she's got 2 older children. And so I've been working with her youngest, and you know, Ben and Jane came just needing parenting support. Really, they wanted an outside voice. Between the 2 of them, they didn't know what to do in some ways with the situation they were in. They wanted someone with authority, someone who could come in and help them, and also just someone to reach their son. So it was a perfect fit for the program in that way. Raf was kind of lost. His peer group was being really awful to him in his school. He wasn't able to work or concentrate very well in school. He has hearing difficulties anyway. And so there was just like no work was getting done whatsoever. Plus he was having, you know, eventually, whilst I was working with him, he had some sort of skirmish on the train with a bunch of friends, and well, so-called friends. And, you know, we ended up moving school, you know, and I was part of that journey with them, helping them decide, like, get him out of this school. You've got the option to put him in this other school, which is going to be a much better facility for him. So, you know, that's the level of authority that it can be to take me on as a coach. I know about the education system inside out from 20 years of working with students and parents. So there's a lot that I can bring to reassure parents, whether you're a solo parent or a couple with different opinions about how you parent, or yeah, just confusion over what to do when the wheels seem like they're all coming off. So yeah, you know, I actually met them around May time. They weren't sure whether they should start, you know, until September and the schooling time. But the summer, in the end, they jumped straight in. And the summer months are just the best months for coaching because they're so away from the systems. In some ways, the summer's awesome. It's not to do with school. It's no longer in that framework. It's much more open, even if we are still doing maths Mondays and English Fridays, whatever. I run a maths thing on Monday and English on a Friday, and then coaching Tuesdays, Thursdays. So, you know, whatever that looks like, when the timing's right, like you were saying, Sam, you know, if the timing is right, then there's no time. Any time in the year, it's always the best time to jump in when we're actually connected, looking at the problem. And it's kind of my duty to make sure that you don't walk away and just hope the problem's going to self-resolve. That's my job. My job is to kind of make you go, you want to address this situation. This investment of time and resources and effort is going to pay off and sort you out, you know. So, you know, they had that slight doubt around the timing, and Ben was also a bit worried. He was worried at that time, it was a 3-month program. He was a bit worried that it was like a marketing trick, that 3 months would lead to kind of 12 months because we'd make this amazing relationship. In a way, he was fearful, knowing the power of what I could create with his son. And sure enough, I mean, he's not worried about it now because the results are so good, but I've been working with them for 18 months. So, that was just an initial resistance in their own trust of me, I suppose, getting to know each other, and also just their self-trust to back themselves to go, we're investing this for our family and for our son's future. And wow, we've never looked back. Like Raf is just is back in their lives. They feel connected with him now where they'd really lost him. I'll play you a video of Jane. She'll speak to this much better than I can, but he's just totally flourishing. In the last 18 months, he's doing his GCSEs this summer, and he's in great shape for them. And frankly, 2 years ago, he wasn't going to get any GCSEs, really, barely. So yeah, huge praise for them, just for their openness to look for and take support, and to act on it, to be willing to be coached themselves as parents. Some humility there to just go, okay, we don't know what to do. What would you recommend, Henry? And again, they're all just suggestions, invitations. I don't make anyone do anything, certainly not the teens and not the parents either. But they showed great commitment just to make the leap. And asking him more, involving him much more in their decision making, treating him like an adult when he was 14, because he really wasn't in that space. They were doing everything for him, and letting him take it on. So yeah. Great. Let's watch this very brief but powerful video from Jane.
We came to Henry because Raf had was just having such a difficult time. The family dynamic was very difficult. It is much, much better now. But when we met Henry, thank God, Raf was really struggling at school and was actually, we didn't even realize how bad it was. And he just got really, really behind. And we just at a kind of point where we just didn't know what to do. He was really unhappy. He was lying. We just couldn't reach him at all. And then gradually with Henry, he sort of returned. He just seems like he's grown up, and he's kind of returned to me. And it's just, I just can't tell you how it's so nice to see him back. And I really do feel I can trust him. Like I remember when you were saying right in the beginning, you just got to trust him. I was like, what? And I have done that, and I can now quite easily do that. And he just seems really happy and he's positive again. It's just such a relief.
Great. Yeah, I just want to tell you one other story. I mean, these are all just to help you understand the work I do, I suppose, and that it works. Whether this is your only exposure to it this week or in the Young Fire parent community on Facebook, the free group, or whether you want to get involved in the program, it's just to show what we're dealing with here, like what this leap is and how powerful it is, how effective it is, how effective the coaching is. So again, Terry, no one will tell you better than another parent. I could talk all day and you won't be as convinced as you will be listening to another mum telling you this. But Terry also had this big question around, like, is coaching really the solution for my son? So, they came to me, Terry, and she didn't speak so much with her husband, but Terry and her husband, they were just really concerned about their son. He was having a lot of angry kind of outbursts at home, very low academic motivation, also with some social and peer group issues. And yeah, she was just thinking, like, should I get a tutor? When we jumped on the call after one of these training weeks, the Bowtie call, she was like, maybe a tutor's going to be better. Maybe a therapist, for anger management, but neither of those really seemed like a great fit. And certainly for her son, he wasn't up for either of them. So, that was one of the problems, was his lack of openness to certainly a tutor, but yeah, both. He didn't want a tutor he didn't really want to address his academic issues, and he didn't want a therapist. So, they just weren't sure if coaching was the best move for them and if it would get the results that they wanted. They wanted greater family harmony, less conflict, and for him to be more motivated at school. more confidence to manage his peer issues as well. And they just knew that, yeah, like I say, tutoring therapy just weren't a fit. And so they liked the fact that the Young Fire Academy and this coaching offered parent community as well. It offered the Maths Mondays that Adam could join in on, and the coaching sessions as well midweek. And in the end, they just, trusted and went for it. And it was it was the best looking and the best feeling solution they could find, basically. And it just had incredible results. Again, you'll hear briefly from Terry. Just they have a great connection with their son now. It's a mighty relief for them both as parents. Terry's husband listened to one of my responses in the Facebook group. So in the private Facebook group, it's all the community is jumping. So it's all like everyone's in the same hotbed. And we're sharing different things, different challenges, and I'm responding to those challenges in the group about trust and stepping back and retiring. And he just said it was the best parenting advice he'd ever heard. So it's just for some parents, absolutely nails what they need to hear, and opens up a whole new kind of chapter in their parenting and in their relationship. So they just sensed the power of the program and went for it and never looked back. So let's hear from Terry. Very sweet share. Oh, sorry. Let me go back.
And Henry, thank you. What a gift for a child to be able to have somebody who just sees the absolute best in them and be like one of their biggest fans and supporters. You've done that for him. I know as parents you say like that's our role, but it gets complicated. But for you to have done that for him and just shine a light for him on everything that's good for him, like what a gift. It's phenomenal. So I thank you greatly for the role that you've played. Yeah, I really mean that now. Thank you. You have a very special, authentic goodness about you, Henry, and keep that. That's invaluable. You can't put a price on that.
Sweet, Terry. Yeah, so that's just to show the power of that particular relationship. Like I mentioned before, the role I'm in to be able to empower and shine a light on a teen's own greatness to them and to their parents. That's the gig. That's the gig for me over 6 months is doing that, like taking someone on, showing them how great they are. I'm not telling them, I'm showing them to themselves. I'm getting them to see how great they are. That's the difference between coaching and just teaching or traditional approaches. You're really getting them to identify that for themselves, and also for the parents. It's such a shift for them to see like, wow, Henry's come in, he absolutely loves our son, and we're like fuming, so what's going on there? And of course there's a lot that we can coach through in the parent community. We can harmonize relationship on both sides. So it's a very beautiful journey and very powerful and very impactful for the right family, the right time. But those are all things that we can consider also on the call if you're interested. All right, great. Let me teach you something today. How are we doing for time? Oh, brilliant. We're in good time. Yeah, we might even finish a bit early today. Let's see how we go. Great. So handing over the reins. Let me just, check the chat. Fatima, Henry, your feedback on my homework retirement plan and Facebook will be useful for me. Yeah, perfect. Definitely. Fatima, thanks so much for posting that there. And I'd love to hear see the retirement plans from all of you in the Facebook group. Yeah, so if you have time later on today to just post that in there, that'd be great. And I'll be there after this, Fatima, to look at your retirement plan. Look forward to that. Great. Okay, so handing over the reins. I've got a framework here for this teaching. This is one element of the program. Of course, there are many other elements of the program that I can't squeeze into 5 days. It's a 6-month program, so there's a lot. But this is just part of it. This is one framework. There are 5 C's. And the first one is, just to commit. First of all, it's just to commit to your breakthroughs from this week. To commit to what you have identified in terms of trusting as much as you can, stepping back, sticking to your retirement plan if you've made one, if you've itemized a few things that you know you want to drop from now, and you want to stop showing up in that way, micromanaging, nagging, taking responsibility off them in some ways is the harsh way of putting it, because that is, after a certain point, what we're doing. We're denying them the opportunity to take responsibility, because we're owning that for them. And Sam, you're right that in some ways it is timing. It's timing for like when we want to make that shift. And each of us as parents, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do beyond our own discernment. So the timing is important, yeah. But we're committing to showing up as we want to show up. And also to getting real long-term results, not getting stuck in the short term, not getting stuck in just wanting to have superficial results right now, satisfying grades or slightly above mediocre grades, or whatever it might be. If it's not a school thing, like having a child who behaves in this particular way, or treats us in this way, or has this limits on their screen time, or all those kinds of things, those are superficial in the short term. Just that snapshot is a superficial result. What we really want them to be learning beneath all of that is the genuine reward of respectful relating if we're in conflict with them, the genuine reward of learning how to deal with conflict, how to deal with their own emotions, how to self-regulate if it's to do with screen time and gaming. Why bother putting effort into school, or why bother showing up in school and getting involved in homework where they're actually fully committing themselves to it and immersing themselves in it? We want them to learn those lessons, like lessons for life, so that's the real gold. Just the hoop jumping and the short-term superficial appearance of things really isn't the game at all. It isn't the goal. So we're also committing to that, just getting real long-term results and being brave as parents to enable them to have experience where they can learn that. There's no way they're going to learn personal responsibility or self-regulation without experience. There's no way. So that's the only way that we learn. So not denying our children those real lessons that they need to learn, the self-leadership, good decision-making. Again, they've got to be put in positions where there's a good and a bad. There's a possibility of getting it wrong. We don't want to put them in harm's way. So, there can be obviously a consideration there. It's got to be within our comfort zone and their comfort zone, and within our natural responsibility as parents to not put them in some reckless situation. No way. I'm not talking about that at all. But we need to also come out of some of our comfort of just preventing them from experiencing life, or being in any sort of responsible position where they have to make a decision either way, and it's theirs to make, with or without us. And them finding their clear purpose beyond just following instructions, being in systems, being in institutions where they can actually find ownership, intrinsic motivation, like real drive and real understanding of why they do what they do. Again, this is a massive part of the 6-month program. Finding purpose. What is the point of school? Why would you bother to do extra work or to put time and effort in? I know that we've got a real spread of parents here, by the way, like, Mohammed's a straight 9 student and loves work. He's telling me last night about how he loves to watch YouTube videos on his subjects, basically. So, he just loves to study, and he's got that side of life absolutely in the bag. Computer sciences, computer engineering, his destiny is great on that front. But, everyone, of course, has things that they're challenged by. So, in his case, Fatima, like you've said, confidence and also happiness, a concern of just like, okay, is he well? And anyway, I don't want to speak too much. But this is for all teens, really. But we want them to. I want to go into those bigger questions with them. They don't get asked. We don't generally ask the question of what's the point of school. It's just like, well, you just have to do it. And you just need GCSEs. Otherwise, you've got no future. This kind of thing just doesn't really resonate with the teens of this day and age. For some of them, they're just not going to buy that. That's not going to motivate them. So we've got to go into like, what is really the point? And that is where I really come to life, in a forum where I'm not the parent. I'm not trying to persuade, or I don't have that history with them or that dynamic with them. We can really just open that up, really genuinely. What is the best looking couple of years when you're 14 and you're bored of school, or younger, 12, and you're resistant in that way? what's the solution? Let's like be real about this. You've got at least 4 more years of school, maybe 6, maybe 10 if you go to university. So what's going to be the solution there, to not continuing to have a miserable time? How can we bring life and empowerment to this situation? Do you want to leave school? You know, like that's a great question to ask. It's almost never answered with a yes by the teen. Because, you know, they're friends, they want to stick in the system, they want to keep going with the flow. You know, there's a very few teens who are empowered enough to be able to step away from school, but it's a good question to ask. Yeah, and just to open it up, to open up that possibility, and then for them to go, okay, well, why am I at school? Why do I go? What's it a vehicle for? What can I take from it? What can it give me? What does it give me? Otherwise, it's just victimhood and blame, and a lot of negativity. And if those questions don't get asked, then you just continue on through school in victimhood and blame, and it's dreadful. It's empty and meaningless. And many parents wanting to just press the fast forward button there, to just get their kids out of school. I totally understand, but you can do so much to empower the schooling years. I know I can do so much with a teenager in front of me, with a group in front of me, and with working with the parents as well, to bring life to those years, to bring real purpose to those years, and to make it genuinely a whole rounded education, school and not school. You know, these are precious years, these teenage years, where that they're squandered in so many ways. Negative attitude to school, no idea what to do with their free time when they come out of school. So, you know, that's what the program addresses, is purpose, finding purpose in and out of school. So yeah, that's what we're committing to. I'll leave it there, otherwise I could probably go on forever. But yeah, commit is number one. The second one is communicate. Yeah, and communication is a key module in the parent training. So, you know, how we speak and how we communicate with our children is, yeah, I mean, for me, there's some resources that I've been exposed to, people I've learned from, teachers I've learned from around communication with children, and with, of course, it's with all beings. But, you know, especially in this context for parenting, absolutely game-changing communication training, you know, which, you know, I won't go into here. We just don't have the time to go into everything in these 5 days, but yeah, completely game-changing for me as a parent. When I read some of this stuff and studied some of this stuff, and started trying it with my children, wow, it was so foreign to me to begin with, and the results I was getting were just incredible. So typically, you know, we're looking at how we show up and say something like, and if there were 6 of us or whatever, more of us on camera here, I'd get you all to put your hands up. You know, how we can show up and say something, we just get exactly the opposite result that we want. we want to help them, we want to console them, we want to encourage them or whatever, and we just pour petrol on the fire. They just react so badly to us. And so then you're like, whoa, okay, I was trying to, and, you know, we're justifying them. Then maybe we're arguing with them on the back of that, because we wanted a certain result and we didn't get it. We got the opposite. Then we're in a spin. We're just in a spiral, us and our child, and everyone's pretty miserable about it. So, you know, learning how to communicate, that is just so key. And I would love to know, just put in the chat if you agree that you've shown up with your child, said something that you hope is going to help, and it's just gone down completely the wrong way. So some of these tools in the program are just super potent for how we communicate with our child. But yeah, also communication is just around, are we going to have like a formal sit down, like retirement ceremony kind of thing? Are we going to make a thing of it? That could be appropriate to go, listen, I've had enough of this, you know, on the back of this training or in joining the program, to sit down and go, okay, I'm not going to parent like that anymore. It's not, it's very stressful for us. It's driving us apart, and it's not getting us good results, you know? So like, I don't want to show up like that anymore. Let's refresh. Let's like find another way. So it can be formal, like a handover process, or it can also be a series of kind of more casual chats, whatever works for you. Either way, we want to draw a line. If you feel like that resonates with you, and this training generally resonates with you, draw a line over some of the stuff that you've been doing that you just can see doesn't serve anymore, and open up the communication channels with them, open up all the boundaries, you know, the boundaries that are causing such conflict, whatever it is, wherever the friction is, have a look at that with your child. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly check in with the chat because I find it so difficult to, I want to take this in as we go. So Fatima, yes, working with computers, yeah, decreases social interactions. Yeah, sure, of course. Like, and that's very typical, Fatima, for anyone really interested in computer science. Of course, there's a social challenge there, but yeah, you know, and each is as they are, you know, has, you know, if he has the affinity more with computers and that way of interacting. I know many teens like much more comfortable, you know, gaming as well. Like, I don't know if Mohammed's a gamer, but each is just as they are. You know, we're not going to make our children different to how they are. We're not going to, through the program or any other means, make them some other child. You know, that's not the point. Our children are our children. They are as they are. They're perfect as they are. And they've got such incredible qualities, such a diversity. You know, you mentioned inclusivity as well around, you know, you being a Muslim. And I knew that about the camera. I just didn't want to put words to it for you, but thanks for also messaging about that. But yeah, you know, I've completely lost my thread now, but yeah, each child, just, we need to completely honor them as they are. You know, like, we want our children to actually look like a crazy array of all sorts of magnificently different beings. Unfortunately, culture and our institutions dictate that we should all basically be the same. We squash so much of the brilliance out of our children because there isn't a forum to support them to be different from one another. They are living in such monocultures in schooling. It's just, it's a tragedy. I want to offer them a space where they can really start to expand into who they really are, not have to be just like everybody else, loud and really into football, or, you know, whatever it is. It's kind of pervasively, you know, and I'm really into football, so it's nothing to do with that, but it's just to do with allowing children to be as they are. So with Mohammed, Fatima, you know, that's also part of your parent journey, is to not try and wish for him to be other than he is. You want to give him the skills that you think he needs as much as possible, but also completely lovingly accepting him exactly as he is, with all of his shyness and his social awkwardness, whatever it is. You know, yes, work on the tools, work with him on the tools. If he wants them, that's a key step, as well as to make sure that he really wants them too. He really wants to take that help for himself. One thing I know as a coach is that you cannot help anybody who doesn't want help. So the first thing for me, when I meet a teen or when I meet a parent, is like, well, are we doing this or are we not doing this? Do you want to work together or not? So especially with the teens, I tell them explicitly, I don't work with anyone that I don't want to work with, and who doesn't want to work with me, rather. So if they're like not really in, then you can't get results for people like that. So they have to be like, okay, I'm giving this a shot. So for Mohammed, he's going to need to want to work on that as well, for you to be able to support him in that. Yeah, and yeah, grown-ups who work in mechanicals, yeah, sure, yeah, that's great. And I think that's a great journey for you to be on, Fatima, with him. But bring him along for the ride. Make sure that he's also putting his hand up for that he also just goes, yeah, okay, Mum, I'll do this course, or I'll whatever you think could support him with that. Make sure he's also wanting to resolve his own problem with that, if he even sees it as a problem. Otherwise, you've got to celebrate him as he is as well. Because I don't see anything wrong with him at all, like the way he showed up with me. And sometimes, like you say, it's more to do with other people's issues that they might struggle with him. Yes, it's so interesting, Sam, isn't it, that we don't think we're projecting a whole load of things, and yet our children are telling us something else. Again, every parent under the sun can put their hand up for that. We're like, what? I don't, you know, our children, sometimes they're brilliant. They're brave enough to tell us that. They just tell us straight out. And we cannot just deny those allegations. We can't just go, no, I don't, and hide away. Just thinking like, I don't do that, he or she's completely wrong. I'm not saying this is what you're doing at all, Sam, but I'm just conscious that we can just feel like, wow, I don't do that. I don't project that, or I don't think that of you, but they're communicating with us in that way. They're showing us something that we definitely can learn from. like, wow, that's how they feel about it. That's a real communication. So we've got to then do our own work, look at what we are doing, how we can reassure them that we don't disapprove. But there's a huge amount of cultural pressure on kids these days, and it comes from old parenting ways, old institutional ways, you know, and they are so networked. Their intelligence is so networked into the mainframe. They just pick up on it way beyond what we think we're actively doing or not doing. They just pick up on it. So that's a powerful communication, I would say, from them. Great. I've mentioned, the communication piece in the program. Also, there's a 5-hour kind of audio course, which is part of the program too, which is, again, just on, there's more on this topic of trust, which is full of other kind of gems. Yes. And on to the next thing. The next thing is collaboration. Now, some of you might start to recognize some of these words. They are, many of them, kind of the 21st century skills, as it's called, the list of skills that employers are going to want in the future. Not that it's all about that at all, but I've definitely got one eye on that when I'm working with teens and parents. It's just like their whole life. How's their whole life going to be after they've been in this program? What can we build now? What can we set in motion now? What level of personal responsibility, self-direction, and self-trust can we sow now, so that they can go out into the world and be just exactly what their employers want to see, and what the world needs, which is, you know, the 21st century skills. I'll talk about them a little bit more. It's not quite on this topic, but collaboration is one of them. We need to produce a generation who know how to collaborate. That's what's most needed by the workforce, and most needed to solve our cultural and global problems. So it's what's most needed for a peaceful and happy human society. So collaboration, the family is such an incredible forum for practicing the 21st century skills. So in collaborating with them, in handing over the reins in this way, we're inviting them in on like a journey. You know, this is what I do. I put it all back on them in some ways, the responsibility. Like I was saying with speaking with Ben last night about technology usage. You know, he was like, yeah, I'm a phone addict, and you know, he's kind of laughing whilst he was saying it. But you know, I'm asking them to see, like, well, what do you actually want? What, you know, how can we, in some ways, I'm collaborating in that way to just go, okay, well, what do you want week to week? Just touching in about the phone usage. How satisfied were you each day this week in terms of what you got done? Did you get lost scrolling again? It's just constantly shining a light on them and their activities, so that they can see that for themselves. And I'm like walking alongside them there. So it's much more that sort of feeling of collaboration than leadership, than what Elle was talking about, being the boss, you know, in that kind of way. So collaboration, you know, it might be messy in some ways to open some of these things up. That's one of our fears with relinquishing control, is that it's much more on the hoof. You know, it's much more open. Things are way more up in the air. You know, you've just committed to stepping back from micromanaging and controlling. Well, that means that then things are much more wild, I think, in a great way. So it might feel alarming at times. Sorry, I'm getting a slight interruption from messages. It might feel alarming at times. Doubt probably will creep in, you know, whilst you're going through this process of trusting more, retiring, and then handing over to them ultimately. So, you know, this is what the community is for. In some ways, spending 6 months with a Facebook community group where there's a feedback loop there. Like I say, I'm leaving videos there in response to everybody's questions. Everyone's questions kind of complement, and challenges complement each other's. No one's situation is alien to any other parent in the community. So it's such a rich, that in itself is a great collaboration, just of all of us there in that space. But we must bring this word more into our parenting when they're a teen. It's a collaboration. It's not top-down management. It's much more going, okay, what can we do about this? What do you think? You know, same as you would with a work colleague. It's really just beginning to speak with them and interact with them in that way. Quick check on the time. Great. Okay, the fourth one then is cooperate. Another 21st century skill. So listening to them, honoring their input and process, you know, us cooperating with them and them cooperating with us. So it's not a trial, this trust challenge. It's not like they've got to prove the results in a week or two. It's an adventure. You know, the best perspective for a parent to look at this is like, wow, I'm so done with this exhausting, stressful, and self-defeating parenting approach. You know, if that's how it is for you, I just want to like get off the ride, stop working so hard and getting terrible results. So, you know, this is a grand adventure to go, okay, wow, I'm going to try something completely different. I'm going to step back. Like Sarah said, wow, she was ill, suddenly became really ill. And that was of huge benefit to her son. She can see the benefits to her son that she was taken out. So that's, to me, that's fascinating that that's the case and that she shared that in this group. I know that that's true. That can be a beneficial circumstance for a young person to have responsibility at this age, real responsibility to manage their own lives when their parents not available to parent them. So yeah, be philosophical about the failures, any of the failures as they come up. The acronym that I love is FAIL, F-A-I-L, which I learned stands for first attempt in learning. You know, a failure is just the best way to learn. So it's another way of talking about experience. And also I've heard a great reframing of being bad or being good at something. You know, if you're bad at something, often I'll find out from the teens that say, oh, I'm really bad at whatever it is. I'm really bad at public speaking, for example. And you know, you just find out they've only done it once. Well, they've only done it twice. Once when they were 6, and once like a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, when you're bad at something, you're inexperienced. It's to do with lack of experience. I always reframe that with the teens, with my own children. You're inexperienced. You can't do something once and then judge how good you are at something. So, you know, we're also needing to bring that to our family dynamic with our children, allowing them to fail, because that is the route to profound learning. There's no other way to do it. So we are shooting ourselves in the foot if we're protecting them from any sort of failure. We've got to expose them to that at some point and let them get the sloppy grades, hand in their homework late, you know, show up in a way that's kind of rude or discourteous to others, or whatever it might be, whatever the topic is, make some bad decisions around lifestyle choices, you know, down the line. For some of you, you've got very young kids, but, you know, drugs, that kind of, just to get things wrong. Like one student I was working with, he just got paralytically drunk one night. And it really taught him a lesson. I was working with him and his mum at the time. And of course, his mum just wanted to absolutely flip on him, you know, but we really didn't do that. I knew he was learning all of his own lessons. He only got home because a friend of his found him and brought him home. He was just totally unable otherwise to get home. And it scared him. It shook him up, and it showed him like just how dangerous that sort of situation is. And the lack of judgment from his mum just meant his lesson was all the more profound. Like, you know, his mum obviously spoke up for her perspective, but he didn't get it in the neck. He didn't get that whole lecturing from her. He didn't get her trying to tell him all of the lessons. Nothing was needed. No words were actually needed. And Ollie just learned all of those lessons for himself. And you know, I've just actually just heard from his mum yesterday. I hope this is going to be useful for you, but she just shared an absolutely beautiful message about him. Well, maybe I'm not going to be able to find it. Just happens to have been in touch to say, yeah, you know, that I thought you might like to know. Well, he found out he passed his maths GCSE today. His class did the real thing early instead of a mock. He's so happy he never has to do maths again. This is part of our journey. He worked really hard and finds maths difficult, so it's a massive boost, morale boost for him. And since Christmas, he really seems to be so much more focused. This is what I've been trying to sow the seeds for in the program, and all his teachers commented on it in Parents' Evening tonight. So, you know, he's gone into that shift because his mum has learnt from me and through the program, and so's Ollie, that it's all on him, really. It's his gig, you know, it's his life, it's his responsibility, and that I knew he had that capacity, even for the academic work, which he loathed maths. But he's now got his maths early. They did it early in his school, and so now he's cleared the decks. At least he doesn't have to worry about that. He's never going to have to do maths again, and he can concentrate on his other subjects for the summer. But that was some journey with cooperation around that drunken incident. And also, yeah, part of it was just calming his mum down, you know, just reassuring her she's a single mom. And so also it's very powerful when I work with single parents, because it's an outlet for them to share some of their responsibilities with someone who really, you know, has a lot of experience, a lot of authority in a good way, and is very gentle and caring and able to, you know, throw quite a lot more into the mix that can help her make the right decisions, so that you can really take these setbacks as great breakthroughs rather than total breakdowns and more reasons for conflict and distance in the relationship. So yeah, nice, just spontaneously, but that just was a message that came in last night, so I wanted to share that with you. Yes, so when we open up the power dynamics, there is then a lot more mutual respect and honoring. You know, one parent also, I think this week, just shared that from stepping back and kind of retiring in some way, even just Monday, Tuesday, her kids then gravitated to her much more than she was used to. You know, like once we step away and we allow them to have a bit of space, we start cooperating with them, working with them, collaborating with them, we get their cooperation and they get our cooperation. There's a lot more mutual respect and honoring, yeah, like I say. So, you know, this handover it's naturally collaborative, because they also need support. It's not going to happen overnight. That we have to be there with them. Of course we do. You know, we've still got so much that they can learn from us, so much support that they need. But the ideal is that they come to us asking for that support. They're not just getting it still. They're not just being given it all the time. They're not being managed in that kind of way. You know, that's a huge step in our communication, is to ask, would you like some advice? Not just to kind of dump it on them, tell them everything we know, especially in that situation that I mentioned of Naomi and Ollie and the drunkenness. Like, you know, just like ask, would you like, you know, do you need any help with this? Like, what do you think we should do? You know, like, how was that for you? You know, just to go into it with open questions and collaboration, and really skillful communication, rather than the massive blow up and, you know, just this denial of their own dignity to learn the lessons that they would otherwise be learning. When there's peace and there isn't so much interference and noise from us and interference from us, they learn so many of their lessons as they go, in the right frame, in the right context. And also, of course, as a coach, I bring a lot to that. But, you know, of course, just as parents, we have the same potential. So yeah, we are practicing 21st century skills in our homes. You know, 21st century skills are like problem solving, teamwork, collaboration, creativity. You know, all of these things. That the home is such an incredible forum to practice these skills with your child, because that's what they're going to need. That's what every predictor under the sun lists, is like what the world needs, what our employers need in the future, what kind of human beings we need to be creating. You know, and school isn't you know, at the moment, doing much of that. Home is the place where we can really do that. That's why I work with parents. I'm not interested in working with schools at the moment. I'm interested in parent grassroots movement. That's where I see the real change can happen. And then schools will catch up. Once we've changed our culture as parents, the schools will have to reflect that. So personally, I think that's the way it's going to happen. So use your home as a profound training ground for these 21st century skills. Gift your children this journey. And if you also don't feel very skilled in collaborating and conflict resolution, then yeah, we all need to learn those things. Okay, so if that's coming up with your teens, then again, that's something we look at in the program, but also something that you can just bring those skills that you need to give them those skills, to be able to role model those skills also to them. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, the last one is celebrate. To celebrate. Now, I haven't talked at all. Again, praise is a module in the parent program. I haven't talked about praise, but praise is a part of this. It's part of just celebrating. You know, celebrating. Well, I'll talk about praise in a sec. Celebrating mostly is to do with the feelings. Celebrating the feeling of this shift with your teens. So how they actually feel about the changes that you're making. asking them like, how is it for you? Like even my son this morning, he was saying, you know, the way with younger kids, my son's 9, so he just kind of said like, well, what's the prize? Because I got, you know, he got out of bed, he was a bit resistant, he was tired this morning, and I was just, we were going through like the 2 scenarios of just lying around in bed, just like miserable. It's like, oh, I'm feeling so tired, I don't want to go to school, and being in that space, which is rubbish. Like everyone can agree that's rubbish, even though it feels like it's a win to like stay under your covers and stay warm and avoid going to school. It really isn't. It's a horrible place to be. Or like we do, and this is something I do with the teens as well, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's how to get up in the morning. Your alarm goes, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. Never lying in that space of like, oh no, like resisting life, snoozing on life. Like anyway, I talked him through that, and he got up, and I could see he was feeling great. He went from feeling awful to feeling great, and he was just like dressed. In fact, I raced him. I said, I'm gonna have a shower, I race you, you get dressed if you're dressed before me. And you know, he just took that bait and got dressed double quick and was ready. And I just could see he was just like completely released from this, otherwise like a complete trap. And he said to me, yeah, but what's the prize? And I was like, the prize, and he knows this from me, so he's heard this from me a million times, but I was like, the prize is how you feel now. Like the prize is just the like getting out of victimhood and being in this miserable under your duvet kind of like, oh, I'm so tired kind of space, into just like, bam, I'm dressed, I'm ready to go, I'm alive. So, you know, the prize is the intrinsic reward. You know, we mustn't, and again, sorry to keep mentioning, but I keep being reminded, reward and punishment is also a huge part of the parent program, learning about rewards and punishment, what really works and what doesn't work. Carrot and stick, you know, if then rewards, they don't work. You know, I've researched this, I've studied this. That is not what motivates children or people now more than ever, because of our evolution. You know, evolutionarily, our first motivation was survival, whenever it was, thousands of years ago. We just needed to survive. Then we went into a phase where it's more like accumulation, like how much can we get? Wow, 20th century living, like woohoo, like all this, you know, we can have washing machines and cars and all this kind of stuff. How much can we accumulate? We've gone into a new phase now as a global human society where our motivation is to do with intrinsic reward. It's to do with what can we have, like we want to feel good, we want to feel purposeful, we want to feel like we're actually doing something with our time and in the world. So it's no longer to do with like, oh, I can get 100 grand for doing this job or whatever it is, and that's enough. It's not really for the workforce for the future either. So motivation is also changing at this time, like what does actually get people going and get them out of bed. So my prize for Albie, my son, is going to be like a surprise prize next tomorrow, just to say, Albie, it was actually awesome the way you got out of that victimhood of like, oh, I'm so tired, I don't want to go to school, and you jumped to it and you had a great day, and so like, here's whatever. But I'm not going to offer him that prize before he's, as a reward for doing the thing, because then it completely takes away his pure experience of the shift that he created there, coming out of a miserable state and into a much more committed and satisfying state. So that's a really messy snapshot at the end of the week and the end of the training on reward and punishment. But yeah, that's again part of what we go through as a parent community, to look at anywhere we're getting stuck with that reward and punishment. Quick check on the time. Great. Last things on celebrating. Yeah, you know, we're let me just review. I don't want to miss some of these things. Yeah, also, yeah, so praise, briefly on praise. Praise can be absolutely toxic. I hope that resonates. Of course, it can be awesome as well. Our children can really thrive off our encouragement, but it's a very dangerous. We have to find the right line with praise. If we're kind of owning their satisfaction more than they are, or if it feels like they're just looking for our approval, or if we like it and we praise them for it, therefore, you know, it should be a higher priority for them than the other things. You know, we want them to be having a pure experience of like what their reward is for doing well. You know, children that kind of run to their parents. In fact, I don't want to put it like that, because if your child runs to you and shows you an amazing thing they've done, that can be awesome. But we just have to be very careful with praise. So when I say celebrate, it can be wordless, like literally just a wordless, like, wow, how does that make you feel to do that? So, like, how did you feel when you what did you most enjoy about it? Put it back on them. You know, you just want them to be really like taking the nourishment of their own achievements and taking the wisdom of learning their life lessons, like with Albie this morning getting out of bed. I want the big lesson for him, not the fact that I approve of him and he's a good boy. You know, I would never use that terminology, by the way, and I've learned that, and don't judge anyone who does. But to me, there is no bad boy under the sun. So, you know, it's an important framing for them to understand the value of what they're doing rather than just feeling like they're going to be judged either way by me or anybody else. So I think I need to draw breath and leave it there. There's the 5 points for handing over the reins. I hope it's been useful. I hope you've taken loads of notes. And I really look forward to hearing of the benefits of the whole week in our bow tie calls. Anything, also the feedback, anything else you feel like is a sticking point for you, something that you really don't resonate with or don't know is appropriate for you, that'll be awesome to go through on the calls as well, and great feedback for me. So I think that is it. Basically, we have a moment now for any questions or shares you would like to make. Now it would be incredible. I think I'm going to stop the screen share. Great. Did I manage that? Did I just stop the screen share? Yeah, I think I did. Okay, great. Sam, you're the only one on camera, so I feel to kind of pick on you, but I don't want to if you would not like. Is there anything you would just spontaneously share about today, or it could be either. Maybe start with anything that's really stood out as like, wow, that's interesting or useful, and then also any sticking points.
I've just written something in the chat, which is it really struck me that I've got a lot of work to do on myself. So much of what you said, you know, resonates, that I see the brilliance in my boy. There's no doubt about that. He's fantastic. He's awesome. He's come through a hell of a lot. But just listening to you talk about your morning routine with your kid, getting him out of bed, you know, I'm not in a place where I could kind of have led that process, you know, if that scenario had come up for me. So it's a huge amount of work lies within sorting out myself. And I just feel that my son could benefit from having someone other than me to help him right now, because I'm not, you know, not in a, perhaps the rest would be at the time.
I feel just to say, wow, thank you for your great humility and sharing like that. And of course, my role is also not just to see the best in the children, but also to see the best in the parents. So listening to you, I would love to, well, of course, I would love to go on that journey with you, and we'll have our call this afternoon, which is great. You've booked in the bow tie, so we can unpack all of that then as well. But most of all, thanks for your humility to share that. And also, probably it isn't as, I wonder whether it's as much as you think it is in some ways. Like that is true, I think, for most parents, that a lot of the work does lie with all of us. So I suppose what I want to say is I wouldn't isolate yourself and just like, wow, I'm the one that's got all the work to do. I think every parent I've ever worked with has like, I'm in that work. I've worked a lot on it. I know it's never ending. How much I could undo the cycles of my own parenting past. My parents were awesome, but they were parenting in the style that they were parenting in. You know, it was the 70s, 80s. You know, so we tend to parent how we were parented. You know, command and control, reward and punishment. These are antiquated systems that pervade all of society. So, you know, it's just to support you in knowing it's not your we're all in this together, basically, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I really appreciate that share, and also that you can take this moment to see the brilliance in your child. That's something I would love us to go forward with. Like you say, if the timing is right and we can ease your resistance on the call later, then we'll see what we can do, what the possibility is. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
If I could just mention here, I just thought I had to jump in because
Yeah.
with Albie this morning, it was me who met him first. And I didn't know what to do with him, and I handed him over to Henry. So,
Oh, great. That's good. Yeah.
And often I'm in the space. I mean, last year I can see we're at time, but I'm often in this. We often don't know. Wow, I feel so far from being like an expert parent. Anyone who tells you they're an expert parent, run a mile, because it's such a messy business. It's such an incomplete and it's such an it's just not a clear science. So, you know, we're often in that. I often feel in that position. I've often sat with my kids and not known what to do, and sat and just not said anything when all of us were fuming, you know. And so there's often this sense of not knowing, often this sense of getting it wrong, but we can always make amends, like I covered, I think, in one of the days. You know, like getting it wrong is just such an insight, like, wow, okay, how can I do that better? So yeah, I also just wanted to say, even though Sam set me up as some sort of like savior parent, it's very challenging for me also. Wow, there's moments when I'm severely provoked and don't know what to do. So I'm completely in love with the learning of my own journey as a parent, and I'm so blessed to have a community of parents I learn so much from. So I will also learn so much from you in our call later and in our journey in the future, whatever that looks like. So yeah, thank you anyway. I won't keep you anymore today, all of you. I must keep to the time. Thanks, Sam, for that beautiful end to the call, and Fatima for being with us. Jessica, love to you on this very tender day for you. Yeah, with the passing of your mum. And yeah, please do all, just what you could do is just post your gratitude in the group. It would be really lovely if you just went to the group now whilst you're in state, as coaches say. And just spend 2 minutes there, post something about the call today. Also, it will help the others. Yeah, just to understand the value of the week that we've had. So go and spend 2 minutes there. That would be beautiful to read. Any retirement plans, put them there as well. We're always and forever in touch through the Facebook group. I hope to see you all on the Bowtie calls anyway, and for the review process. But it's been a stunning week and a lovely day today as well. So thank you for all being here today. And please do unmute, put your cameras on if you like to, say goodbye. I think everyone's off camera, but yes, so it's the three of us and the two of us not on camera.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a lovely day, everyone. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.